There comes a time in every era when a quiet force rises, not with noise, but with purpose. Today, that force is India. This isn't just a political shift or an economic surge. It's a spiritual awakening of a civilization that never died, only waited. In a world searching for direction, India offers more than power, it offers presence, rooted in truth and timeless wisdom. What you're about to witness is not just a speech, it's a revelation. Stay with this till the end, and you won't just understand India's rise. You'll feel it in your soul. This is more than change, it's destiny unfolding. India's economic ascent has become one of the most defining transformations of the 21st century. Once seen as a developing nation with limited influence in global markets, India has now emerged as a rapidly growing economic powerhouse. It is projected to become the world's third largest economy by 2030, overtaking economies that have long dominated global finance. This momentum is not accidental. It is the result of a combination of strategic reforms, demographic advantage, and technological innovation. At the heart of this transformation is India's young and vast population. With a median age of around 28, India has one of the youngest workforces in the world. This demographic edge is fueling domestic consumption, expanding labor markets, and attracting foreign investment in ways that few other countries can match. The government's aggressive push for infrastructure, digital inclusion, and manufacturing expansion through initiatives like Make in India has laid the groundwork for long-term sustainable growth. India's service sector, especially in IT and digital services, continues to lead globally. From software exports to fintech revolutions like UPI, India is innovating not only for itself, but for the developing world at large. Startups are thriving, venture capital is flowing in, and Indian companies are increasingly making their mark on the global stage. Meanwhile, India's role in global supply chains is evolving as businesses seek alternatives to China. Manufacturing hubs are springing up in states across the country, while economic zones and tax reforms are streamlining operations for both domestic and international businesses. With rising exports, a strong currency reserve, and improving ease of doing business, India is no longer just participating in the global economy. It is shaping its direction. This rising trajectory has captured the world's attention and fundamentally altered how powers like America engage with India. India's pursuit of technological sovereignty is becoming a defining pillar of its rise as a global power. In a world where digital infrastructure, data control, and tech innovation determine influence, India is no longer content being a consumer of foreign systems. It is actively building its own technological ecosystem, one that reflects national priorities, safeguards data independence, and challenges the long-standing dominance of Silicon Valley. A prime example is India's Unified Payments Interface UPI, a homegrown digital payment system that has revolutionized financial transactions. Unlike Western models which are profit-driven and closed, UPI is open source, scalable, and inclusive, reaching urban centers and remote villages alike. It's not just a financial tool, it's a symbol of India's capacity to lead through indigenous innovation. India is also creating alternatives to global tech monopolies. From developing its own AI and language models to pushing for sovereign cloud storage and national data governance, India is making it clear that the digital age must respect regional diversity and local control. Its push for self-reliance in semiconductors, chip design, and electronics manufacturing is another strategic move aimed at reducing dependence on global supply chains. Major global tech companies are now adjusting to India's regulatory landscape rather than the other way around. Whether it's social media platforms complying with Indian IT laws or smartphone makers setting up local factories, the shift in power dynamics is unmistakable. India's approach to internet access through platforms like Jio, its growing emphasis on cybersecurity, and its digital public infrastructure are shaping a new model of tech leadership. This bold technological independence is not just about innovation, it's about influence. It positions India as a country capable of setting its own digital agenda, building tools for its people, and offering a new model to the developing world. India's foreign policy is increasingly defined by strategic autonomy, a clear, consistent refusal to be aligned permanently with any one global power bloc. This independent approach is reshaping how nations like the United States engage with India, because it defies the traditional expectations of alliance politics. India doesn't simply follow the lead of powerful nations. It makes decisions based on national interest, historical context, and long-term vision. Unlike many U.S. allies who align closely with Washington's geopolitical directives, India maintains deep ties with a wide range of global players, including the U.S., Russia, the European Union, Japan, and Gulf nations, without fully committing to any one side. It participates in Quad alongside the U.S. and Japan while simultaneously expanding BRICS cooperation with China and Russia. This balancing act is not accidental but intentional. India seeks partnerships, not patronage. During global crises, India has often taken stands that surprise Western powers. Whether it's continuing energy deals with sanctioned countries or staying neutral on contentious military conflicts, India signals that it will not be pressured into decisions that compromise its sovereignty or national priorities. Its historical experience with colonization fuels a deep desire to remain free from external dominance, and that perspective is woven into its diplomacy. India's non-alignment is not passive. It is active and assertive. It attends global summits, engages in defense exercises, builds regional influence, and speaks from a place of equal footing. This posture enhances its global credibility, especially among nations in the global south that see India as a voice for balanced multipolar leadership. Strategic autonomy allows India to challenge old hierarchies without isolating itself. It operates from a position of confidence, charting its course through complex geopolitical waters while remaining open to cooperation on its own terms. India's defense transformation marks a decisive shift from dependency to self-reliance, positioning the country as a formidable player in global security dynamics. For decades, India relied heavily on foreign military imports to equip its forces. Today, that model is being dismantled and replaced with a powerful domestic defense industry, backed by indigenous innovation, strategic partnerships, and modern doctrine. A major part of this transformation is the Make in India defense initiative, which encourages domestic production of advanced weapon systems, fighter jets, submarines, drones, and missiles. Organizations like DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization, and HEL Hindustan Aeronautics Limited are now leading projects that once required foreign support. India's development of systems like the Tejas fighter jet, the Agni missile series, and the INS Vikrant aircraft carrier reflects this growing self-sufficiency. Simultaneously, India is modernizing its military doctrine to address both conventional and asymmetric threats. With tensions on multiple fronts, particularly along its northern borders and maritime zones, India has been recalibrating its strategies, integrating artificial intelligence, cyber warfare, and space-based defense capabilities into its operational planning. This multi-domain approach ensures readiness for future conflicts that extend beyond traditional battlegrounds. India is also forging deeper military partnerships across the globe. Joint exercises with the U.S., France, Japan, and Australia demonstrate its commitment to collaborative security while maintaining strategic independence. At the same time, India continues to engage with Russia, maintaining critical defense ties without becoming overly dependent. The country's growing defense exports reflect this new identity. From supplying missiles to Southeast Asia to training foreign pilots and building defense corridors, India is shifting from being a buyer to becoming a builder and a supplier. This shift enhances both economic strength and geopolitical leverage, making India not just a regional power, but a serious contender in global military affairs. India's geopolitical leverage in the Indo-Pacific and beyond has become one of its most powerful tools in reshaping global dynamics. Strategically located at the crossroads of key maritime trade routes, India serves as a critical player in maintaining balance in one of the world's most contested regions. Its ability to influence outcomes without formal military alliances sets it apart from traditional power players. The Indo-Pacific, home to over half of the world's population and some of its most vital sea lanes, has become the focal point of 21st century geopolitics. As the U.S. seeks to counter China's growing assertiveness, India's presence offers a natural and credible alternative. With its long coastline, growing navy, and island partnerships, India is central to safeguarding freedom of navigation, maritime security, and open trade routes in the region. India's participation in multilateral groupings like the Quad, along with increasing engagement with ASEAN and Indian Ocean nations, demonstrates its commitment to regional stability. Yet, it does so without acting as a proxy for any superpower. It fosters cooperation while retaining its autonomy, making it a trusted partner for smaller nations seeking balance without subjugation. Beyond the Indo-Pacific, India's voice carries weight in forums like the G20, BRICS, and SCO. Its ability to engage with both the West and the global South has made it a diplomatic bridge. Countries look to India not just for military or economic partnership, but for moral leadership and principled diplomacy. Its measured approach to conflicts, insistence on sovereignty, and support for multipolarity resonate across continents. India's rise is not just about capacity, it's about credibility. In an era where trust and stability are rare, India's geopolitical positioning enables it to shape regional and global narratives in a way that few others can, making it indispensable in the balance of global power. India's cultural influence is expanding globally with a quiet but undeniable strength, rooted in thousands of years of civilizational wisdom. Unlike political or economic power, cultural influence works through inspiration, not imposition. India's soft power is built on philosophies, traditions, and values that have transcended borders and languages, gaining acceptance not by force but through resonance. Yoga, once a spiritual discipline practiced in ashrams, is now a global phenomenon. Millions across the world embrace it not just for physical well-being, but for inner balance and mental clarity. This cultural export speaks volumes about India's ability to influence lifestyles and thinking on a deep, human level. Alongside yoga, Ayurveda, and natural healing systems rooted in Indian traditions are seeing a resurgence, especially in a world fatigued by synthetic solutions. India's cinema industry, particularly Bollywood, has become a vehicle for storytelling that reaches audiences from Africa to the Middle East to the West. Its music, colors, and emotion-driven narratives offer a universal language that connects diverse cultures. Indian cuisine, too, has become a symbol of both comfort and complexity, with Indian restaurants and food products found in nearly every major city around the globe. Beyond entertainment and wellness, Indian philosophy, especially principles like ahimsa non-violence, karma, and dharma, are increasingly being studied in academic and spiritual circles. These concepts offer alternative worldviews that challenge materialism and encourage ethical living, inner reflection, and societal harmony. India's cultural footprint also extends into digital spaces. Influencers, scholars, and creators are sharing ancient Indian knowledge systems online, reaching younger generations with new energy. This modern revival is not just preserving heritage, it's globalizing it. In a world searching for meaning and identity, India's culture offers not only answers, but also a sense of belonging. Its influence spreads not by domination, but by illumination. India's rapid advancement in space exploration has positioned it as a serious contender in the global space race, directly challenging the long-standing dominance of agencies like NASA. What was once considered an area reserved for superpowers is now being redefined by India's efficient, ambitious, and purpose-driven space missions. With each successful launch, India signals that it is not just participating in space exploration. It is competing at the highest level. The Indian Space Research Organization ISRO has become a symbol of national pride and scientific excellence. Its achievements, particularly in cost-effective space missions, have gained international recognition. The Chandrayaan missions, aimed at exploring the moon, have demonstrated India's capability to perform complex interplanetary missions. Chandrayaan-2, despite its challenges, laid the groundwork for further lunar exploration, while Chandrayaan-3's successful landing on the moon's south pole marked a historic global first. India's Mars orbiter mission, Mangalyaan, astonished the world by entering Martian orbit on its first attempt, and at a fraction of the cost typically spent by Western agencies. This not only proved India's scientific capabilities, but also introduced a new model of innovation that focuses on efficiency without compromising ambition. Now India is preparing for Gaganyaan, its first human spaceflight mission, and expanding its role in satellite launches for both domestic and international clients. Its growing constellation of communication, navigation, and Earth observation satellites supports not just national development, but also disaster management, agriculture, defense, and climate monitoring. India's success in space is rooted in its vision to use technology for the greater good while simultaneously asserting its place among spacefaring nations. Its ability to combine ancient knowledge with cutting-edge science gives it a unique identity in the cosmos. As the world looks to the stars, India is not just watching, it is leading from the front with purpose and precision. India is reshaping the global economic order by shifting its focus from traditional Western-led alliances to emerging partnerships and alternative economic blocs. As global power dynamics evolve, India is strategically aligning itself with platforms like BRICS and BRICS Plus, which prioritize multipolarity, local currencies, and equitable trade. This shift represents a broader vision of economic sovereignty, reduced dependency on Western financial institutions, and stronger ties with the global South. Through BRICS Plus, India is engaging with countries in Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia that are seeking more balanced economic relations. These nations are drawn to India's democratic model, growing market, and technological potential. India's emphasis on trade in local currencies and support for de-dollarization within certain blocs also speaks to its desire to create a more inclusive and resilient global financial system. India's push for connectivity through initiatives like the International North-South Transport Corridor and the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor is further disrupting traditional trade patterns. These corridors offer faster, more secure trade routes that bypass traditional choke points and increase India's leverage in global commerce. Simultaneously, India is expanding its bilateral and regional free trade agreements with countries in Southeast Asia, Africa, and Europe, reducing its dependence on Western markets and opening new avenues for growth. India's role in global supply chain diversification is also rising, particularly as businesses seek to reduce their reliance on China. With its skilled labor, growing infrastructure, and stable governance, India is positioning itself as a manufacturing and export hub for the future. By crafting its own path in the global economy, India is not just adapting to a changing world, it is helping shape it. This economic realignment underscores India's intent to act not as a follower of Western economic models, but as an architect of a new global trade and financial ecosystem. India's growing command over the information landscape marks a significant shift in global influence. In an age where narratives shape perception and perception drives power, India is asserting itself in the digital and media space with unprecedented clarity and confidence. No longer content with being portrayed through foreign lenses, India is crafting and broadcasting its own voice, both domestically and globally. The rise of Indian digital diplomacy is one of the clearest examples of this evolution. Through active engagement on social media, real-time crisis communication, and the global promotion of Indian achievements, the Indian government and its diplomatic missions are setting a new standard in digital statecraft. Indian embassies across the world are no longer silent outposts. They are active nodes of engagement, using platforms like X, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to share India's narrative directly with global citizens. India is also nurturing its own media networks to compete internationally. Channels like WION, India Today, and Republic have begun to challenge the monopoly of Western media outlets by providing alternative perspectives on global affairs. These outlets are helping India reclaim its image, often countering narratives that have long painted the country through a colonial or biased lens. In addition, a massive online creator ecosystem is emerging, where Indian influencers, educators, and thought leaders are reaching millions around the world. These voices are shaping global discussions on technology, philosophy, culture, politics, and ethics from an Indian viewpoint. This decentralized narrative control strengthens India's soft power and connects it with the younger, digital, first generation globally. India's ability to shape the information war lies not just in content, but in credibility. As the world grows weary of filtered truths and media manipulation, India's rise as an independent, authentic voice is becoming a force that challenges the traditional gatekeepers of global opinion. India's claim to moral high ground on global issues stems from its deep civilizational ethos, rooted in values like peace, nonviolence, tolerance, and respect for all life. Unlike many modern powers whose influence has often been built on colonization, military intervention, or economic coercion, India's strength comes from a philosophy of coexistence and spiritual depth. This moral authority gives it a unique position in global conversations that increasingly demand empathy, justice, and balance. From the teachings of ancient texts like the Vedas and Upanishads to modern leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, India has long projected a world that prioritizes ethical conduct and universal well-being. This legacy is not only remembered, but actively shapes the country's foreign policy and public discourse. India does not seek to dominate, it seeks to lead by example, offering solutions grounded in dharma-righteous duty and collective upliftment. India's stance on global conflicts often reflects this perspective. Whether it is advocating for dialogue over war, respecting the sovereignty of nations, or pushing for equitable climate solutions, India consistently positions itself as a voice of balance and restraint. This approach resonates strongly with countries in the global south and among populations disillusioned with the double standards of powerful nations. In international forums, India speaks with the credibility of a nation that has suffered colonization, fought for freedom, and still upholds democratic ideals despite its internal complexities. It advocates for reforms in institutions like the UN to reflect today's realities rather than yesterday's hierarchies. India's development model, focused on sustainability, digital inclusion, and community empowerment, offers a counter-narrative to purely profit-driven systems. As more nations look for leadership rooted in wisdom rather than might, India's moral compass becomes its strategic advantage. It stands not just as a rising power, but as a reminder of a different kind of strength, one that uplifts rather than subjugates. India is no longer waiting for a seat at the table, it is building its own. From economic might to cultural wisdom, from space innovation to moral clarity, India stands as a challenge not through aggression, but through inspiration. It doesn't aim to outshine others. It aims to awaken the world to a different way of leading. As nations watch, compete, and reconsider, one truth becomes clear. India's rise is not a moment, it's a movement. Thank you for watching. Stay inspired, stay awakened. The future is unfolding, and may you rise with it. Good luck on your journey, and God bless.